Okay, so today we're going to review the notes for evidence of evolution. Scientists always need several sources of evidence to support any scientific theory. Today, scientists use the fossil records, biochemistry, embryology, and biogeography to support the theory that change has occurred in populations over time. In other words, to support the theory that evolution happened. Okay, the fossil record is comprised of preserved organisms or proof of life. When analyzed together, data sequence of fossils can show the change in population over time. Okay, so if you look at a fossil record, the records or the fossils at the very bottom are the older ones. So as you go up, you start seeing newer fossils, and you can see how they changed over time or how they evolved over time. Scientists can date fossils by observing which layer of rock they originated from. The oldest fossils, like I mentioned, are at the bottom, and the newest fossils are going to be at the top. Biochemistry. So here, thanks to advances in modern technology, it is now possible to analyze the DNA and amino acid sequence of organisms. We know that DNA is the blueprint for all of our proteins, so we can look at the DNA of different organisms and see and compare them to other organisms and see how closely related they are and see how they could have evolved from a common ancestor. So shared sequences of genetic material tend to suggest common ancestry. Two organisms that have evolved from the same ancestor might have a high percentage of DNA or amino acid sequence in common. For example, humans and chimpanzees, you can compare their DNA and see how lots of their DNA is very similar, which is why it's said that humans and chimpanzees have a common ancestor. Embryology, information gathered during early development of different species can also be used as evidence of evolution. The embryo is a developing baby, and many organisms that are related or have a common ancestor have similar embryonic developments. They may look identical for the first few weeks or even months. So here you're looking at 4 different organisms, and in the later stage you can see that they're very different. But early in the embryo stages, you can see how they are very, very similar. So this helps us prove that evolution, in fact, does happen. Biogeography. Biogeography is the study of how organisms are distributed across the world. Through the study of biogeography, scientists can observe the effect of different habitats on organisms who were separated geographically. Think geographic isolation. So just look at this picture. You have these organisms that have been separated geographically, and yet they have similar yet different characteristics. And finally, we're going to look at reading a cladogram when we look at things about evolution. And a cladogram shows the relationship between different organisms. Common ancestors are shown in the intersections. So here you would have a common ancestor for all of these organisms. And then as you go up, this would be a common ancestor only for the organisms above that intersection. It says traits in a cladogram are cumulative, meaning a certain organism has all the traits of organisms that came before it. So all of these organisms are going to be vertebrates because they all are above that characteristic. Here, only the organisms above bony skeleton will have a bony skeleton. Any organism below it, for example the shark, will not have a bony skeleton. And here is our top 10. So this is where we're going to stop and review our top 10.